Alright, so we're going to continue on with part 4 with a sexy approach to light and shadow. So we left off here with the belly button area and those abs. Let's go ahead and I'll just erase that really quick. Well, actually, I'm going to keep that there for a second, and then we're going to do it again. So we're going to imagine we have that kind of shape here and this kind of shape here. So let's go ahead and add those shapes back, add the belly button area. Right, so then let's go ahead and add more shape like that, so it's more of the, there we go. Okay, so remember then, let's say the light's coming from this way now. That one was coming from that way. Then we'd have opposite side of the belly button the light is going from is where you're going to have that shape, right? Like this. That's what the light will be hitting. On this side, you're going to have, damn it, the shadow. And then on this side, all where that light's not, you'll have the shadow. Like so. You might want to add a little bit darker shadow there, and a little bit there, just to kind of define the form some more. Right, so that's the basic way to do it from both directions, as you can see. So that's how you would shade the belly. Right, let's go ahead and do that then. So my website is ipaintgirls.com, and the website is in the description. The link's in the description. So the light's coming from that direction, that's what we've been doing, and so you'd have that side, that side of the belly button. That's not my fault, that just happens because like I said, I don't have the right drivers right now for my tablet. And I'm just going to color all this side in then. I might add the darkest dark down here, since I'm going for a little bit more realistic, not so cartoony. And then imagine you have this form here has a shape. You want to imagine the shape, and so the way the lighting might hit it, it's going to have that kind of shape to it. And then you have this one down here, and I'm just going to kind of go like that. Add a little bit darker part there, because it's the furthest away from the light. Notice I'm staying true to my principles that, I'm staying true to my principles that, I'm treating every shape, every three-dimensional shape as its own shape. So, this all right here, damn, I need to get my driver back. This all here was one shape, this all here was one shape, that was one shape, that was one shape. So we're treating them as different shapes, like that. And then this shape is overlapping that shape a little bit, and that shape's overlapping that shape a little bit. So then I'm shading each one, this would be in a Pribram way, I'm shading each one individually, like that, and then it's, then I add the belly button and everything, and it starts coming together. So again, I know that there's a shortcut and all that, but I'm not at my keyboard, I'm just using my tablet, and I don't have those shortcut buttons. For these abs here, I am just going to shade them one color, like that, and then I can add just a little bit, because they're really flat, they don't have much, they're pretty flat surfaces, so they're not going to have much roll around or anything. But I am going to get a little bit of cast shadow from the rib there, so I might as well put that in there. The next thing is we'll deal with this leg here, and so I have that line there, which is a muscle, but it actually shows the part that turns away furthest away on this side, so I'm going to go ahead and add all that in there now. Just I'm hitting at the same pressure, I'm just lightly pushing that out. Okay. I actually kind of want to show that little piece right here. I want it to get a little bit of light. Okay, I gotta bring my black back. Not too much, just a little highlight right there, because that's like a little bone. I want it to show it. All this down here is going to be the darkest, like I said, furthest away from the light. And we're not dealing with bounce light or reflective light yet. And this is the way you want to shade anyway. When you first start shading anything, all this is kind of flat, so you can't have much highlights, because it's all turning down and away because all this is turning down and away from everything. So you want to actually show that it's turning down away by putting it more in shadow. Notice this is lighter than that. That part's lighter than this part, but you don't want the whitest whites down there. Probably don't even want the whitest light right here either, like that. So, alright, so we're moving on then. So we have this leg shape. You also want to imagine anatomy sometimes. It depends how cut they are. Now, on the most fundamental shape, this kind of tapered sphere, you'd have the highlight there, and then so the darkest would be down here, and then it would come up. But if we kind of take anatomy into account, sure, you would have that there. I'm not going to draw that though, but that's where you'd imagine that light. But you might imagine you have, one muscle coming here, and then you have this kind of muscle coming up and that muscle coming down, and so you might want to kind of treat that individually. So you might have another highlight there, one there, and maybe a little bit like there, but that's going to be so far away. Just to kind of imagine what I'm going to be doing here. First thing I'm going to do though is I am going to kind of draw my darkest shadow part. See, I'm trying to imagine the shape here. So all that right there will probably be my darkest shadow part. I want to, at least get a. If you get really good at keeping your pencil or whatever you're using, in this case Cintiq, or you can also use it like in Intuos or Bamboo. If you get used to just having one pressure, whatever that pressure is, and you keep that pressure steady, as you go over and over and over that same area, it'll just make it that color. It won't keep getting darker and darker and darker. It'll just kind of keep it that color. And if you want to get dark, you have to press a little bit harder. I'm just trying to make it all uniform. This is actually one of the slowest ways to shade on the computer. There's so many more brushes and stuff you can use in much quicker ways, but the reason why I'm doing it this way is because it best mimics shading with a pencil. That is, shading with this size 3 brush at 300 dpi best shows like as if I was shading with a pencil right now. And that's kind of what I wanted to show. And I'm going to kind of have all that in there too. Actually, what I'm going to do, come on. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to just put all that in shade right now. This will make it easier to work with. And then I can kind of come in and start adding, directional shade. And those directional lines will kind of help define the form. Damn. Yeah, it's getting really annoying. I should actually, before I even start the next part, I should go and look for that. I'll make sure I get my darkest darks that, you really want to push where the two things are overlapping. Two spheres, the darkest darks is going to be where they're overlapping each other. Like I showed with the, the cylinders like that. The darkest part is there and it fades out both ways like that. Just like, when we did the fingers. So the same thing applies here with the legs. Notice I'm going to be shading the knee separately because it's its own separate three-dimensional piece. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of highlight with the white. I'm going really light though because I don't want it to be super white. But I do want to have a little bit of light there. Okay, something like that. Maybe a little bit right there. Let's go back to black. Yeah, rendering, shading takes time, especially when you do it this way. So now we have the knee. So we got to imagine the knee as one plane here, and it's kind of flat. It's not really like a sphere. Like if you imagine a sphere from the side, right? So let's take a sphere like that and cut in half. The knee is not like that. The knee is more like that, right? So it doesn't really stick out too much. So you don't want to have too much darks and lights on it, since it's a lot more flat of a surface. So in other words, if a surface is like this, and a surface is like this, but they're facing us, so this is facing us now, and this is facing us. They look the same from the front, so how do we distinguish them? It's how you shade it. So the one that's coming out more, it's going to have a lot more gradations, so you'll have this kind of, see if I can do this quickly, and then you'd have, darker here, and then you'd have, your whitest white. So it has a lot more gradation like that, whereas this one wouldn't. It would almost all be one. You might have just a little bit of difference there, and like a little bit of like that. So it's a lot flatter, as you can see. So it's just how you shade it. And I'm gonna have to come back with the next part already. Hopefully, going through the shading process with the whole body is showing you, and you're learning a lot about the anatomy and how to imagine as you're shading it from your mind, where you can get a pretty realistic look by the time you're done without a reference. Alright, thank you for watching. Hit the thumbs up.